Liverpool have just absolutely dominated City, and I'm not even really that impressed, but I am here to celebrate, and it was a good weekend for Liverpool. Obviously, results-wise, that puts Liverpool in a fantastic position. They go 11 points clear at the top of the table, and I don't need to tell you all the obvious stuff, so let's talk about some of the stuff that stuck out from the game to me. First of all, it wasn't actually that good a performance from either team. Liverpool, very dominant. Liverpool controlled the game. We dominated whether City were on the ball or we were on the ball. At any one point, we were pushing them into certain directions, pushing them to make kind of aimless, boring shots, hence why they had a bunch of shots that you really could say did not do very much and didn't really trouble Alisson at all. The positions we work the opposition into very often have to be almost perfect positions, hence why Villa scored their goals and City didn't score any against us. And frankly, I don't even think this was really that much of a worry of a game for me. This wasn't the match where I thought Liverpool, will someone expose our frailties? They're a side low in confidence. They're a side that's really not that organised at the back right now and they don't have Diaz in there. The midfield is really very weak. Width-wise, we absolutely can dominate them, and as much as Savinho and I got to admit, the new signing Marmoush that I really wanted, and Doku were obviously worrying players, and I'll talk about Robertson, but also Trent in a second. I also felt that Liverpool's front line is more than capable, and guess what? The thing that's got us into this position, well, there's two things: a combination of fitness and dominance this season, and that dominance comes from a level of control, but B, a level of adaptability. And the adaptability of this team, and I can't state this enough, I cannot state this enough. The adaptability within this side is the thing that scares the Premier League the most. It's not about, obviously there's Salah. It's not about just that one player, right, though? And I think that's what's fantastic about this. We've adapted around Salah. We've adapted around Szoboszlai. We've adapted around putting Jones up there. They've learned these new positions. And I would have said this in a Villa pre-review the other day if my family hadn't been a bit sick. Genuinely, when we brought Darwin Núñez on, I thought, there were a couple of chances created, but it was a complete shift away from what Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones were doing in the game, and it was a very different kind of ball movement. Suddenly, we went for long balls over the top, but we were willing to compromise some of the control. When we play Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai, we don't need to compromise that control in midfield. We try to win it back very quickly. We ultimately have like a mid to high block against the opposition, and really, we just stop them from doing what it is that they want to do. There are times where they try and pass through us. We're really good at filtering back. There are times that they try and pass over the top of us. Hello, Konate. Hello, Van Dijk. There are times that they switch. Robertson and Trent are really good at getting out to those guys. I want to talk about our fullbacks in just a second. But what I do want to praise is the absolute dominance of the way that Liverpool use Salah and Szoboszlai. And people were talking to me the other day, oh, well, Salah really enjoys playing with Núñez. Salah enjoys lots of different combinations of players. He enjoys when Trent goes on the overlap, when he can. He enjoys when Szoboszlai plays just on the inside, when he plays a little bit further away from him, when he's able to cut inside, and Szoboszlai is then in that outside combination, when he then becomes that combination just in front of the penalty area with Salah. There are lots of different versions of what Salah can do right now, and that is scary to an opposition, because what we've done is we've expanded the amount of space and frankly, the amount of tools it is that he has at his disposal in a game. And because of his age, I get it, believe me, this guy, you don't need to school me about the pace that he has. The number of times he dominated and isolated someone like Ake, and it took a second for him to catch up, was very scary. That wasn't necessarily where all the threat came from. A lot of the threat came through really accurate, crisp passing, through people being in the place at the right time, through training ground understanding and methods which worked really well against City, which sided them open and made it, frankly, impossible for them to come back at any one time. It's so demoralising to play Liverpool. And believe me, it's been demoralising to play Liverpool for quite some time under Klopp. But under Slot now, there is I guess it's a dominance which doesn't come from possession, doesn't always either come from the counter-attack or the, picking up the transitional balls out there. It comes from Liverpool just being really good at keeping you on your feet almost constantly. The nervousness which builds within the stadium, the idea that if Liverpool win the ball back at any position on the field, there is instantly a transition on, just scares oppositions. People don't want to move out of position. It means they can't get creative. It really does stun a lot of their creativity and puts them in a position where I guess they really don't know what it is that they want to do to get through Liverpool in the end. And then they come up against the only place that they really can attack is out wide. That's exactly where Liverpool want them to be. Our two fullbacks are probably two of the weakest positions that we have even when everyone's fit, right? When everyone's fit in the team, I think these are still our two weakest positions. Trent and Robbo. I'll address them both differently. Both have weaknesses, I want to say, because of their physical state at the moment. Robertson is clearly aging in terms of his game, and I think he's also just particularly at a bit of a low in terms of where his physicality is at. It might be a recovery season. It might be a season where if we give him a little bit of time and he doesn't have to play at maximum capacity, then we can bring him back a little bit later. And I'd rather see that than sell him, keep Tsimikas and sign another senior left back. I'd rather see him take on a Milner type position within the team. So that's number one. But immediately behind him is Van Dijk, and immediately in front of him is McAllister. And the whole idea, similar to Trent, is that although Robertson is slightly more front-footed than Trent and maybe has slightly better recovery at the moment than Trent, again, I'll come on to Trent in a second, the whole point is that we get them and we stop them, and then they try and get it around him and someone else cleans up. It will either be a midfielder or it will be Virgil van Dijk, and then suddenly the ball's away. Or the ball comes into the box and we're very comfortable with dealing with those crosses. I mean, obviously there's a couple of those times where those get through. For instance, the goal for Ollie Watkins the other night, and a couple of other times where they just have very good movement in the box. You remember that? Like it was a corner, and then the Ollie Watkins goal. Both great goals from Villa. Both times that they preyed on our vulnerabilities. Trent on the other side. For me, I've not heard this from the club. I've not spoken to anyone directly, and honestly, I don't feel good talking about it because I feel like people's health is always something which should sort of remain personal. But in a game, fitness and availability are genuinely massive for Liverpool this season. And the players who have been most consistent and most on the ball are the fittest and most consistent players within the team. Inshallah. Obviously, there is an element here where I think Trent is carrying a lot of minutes on his body at this point in his career. For any young player, this would be a fairly daunting task to take on the Liverpool right-back position, but also take on a lot of the creativity within the side. I think mentally and physically, that's been very draining for him. And there's never really been a time where he's not been able to play in the team. And secondly, I think he's playing through absolute injury. I think there is an injury in there, which is one or both of his legs. It'll come from A, repetitive strain, B, a long amount of time spent on the field, and C, him wanting to play in games which are big and be a leader within this side. And it completely shifts the frame that Liverpool look at him through. A couple of months ago, and obviously I did a lot of videos speculating around Trent, there was a lot of speculation around why he wasn't signing a new contract. Were Liverpool lowballing him? Were Real Madrid coming in for him? Why would he not sign for Real Madrid in January? Why has he not signed a contract at Real Madrid yet? Why has he not signed a contract at Liverpool yet? And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, first of all, both clubs have enough respect for the player to know that if he isn't in a good physical shape right now because he's barely making it through games, then you're going to take a look at him at the end of the season if you're Real Madrid, if he wants to go there. But also if you're Liverpool, you're not going to be offering him that extremely high contract. But you are having to play him in games. So, first of all, Liverpool lowballing him. I think it'll genuinely come from the idea that we don't know how much of a season you're going to play, so we cannot offer you 350 grand a week or 300 grand or whatever it is that you want to match Van Dijk or Salah. Those guys, historically, have been very available for Liverpool without serious injury. There may be a couple of games they missed, and there's African Cup of Nations, we can talk about that another time. That's not the same point. Those guys have been very consistent for the side. They've been leaders for years, in the same way as Trent has grown into that role. But the idea when you sign a player is they'll play at least 40 games a season for you if you're playing in the Champions League and the Premier League, and you want those people to be leaders within the side who are on the very top wages. That's fair enough, I think. It's not that that's an unreasonable expectation for Trent. I think it's one that Trent would probably expect of himself. But the reality here, I think, will be that there is a surgery or something in the mail for Liverpool or Real Madrid and Trent Alexander-Arnold come the end of the season. I'm not saying that because I know that from a source. I'm saying that because when I look at him, I see him trying to run through what I would consider to be pain. I see him running with an unusual gait. I see him moving in a way which doesn't look like the Trent Alexander-Arnold that we grew accustomed to, and I think maybe over familiar with, to the point where we felt comfortable overly criticizing him and probably saying this guy doesn't care, when actually he cares too much. And actually he has too much respect for a lot of those fans who are saying things like, oh, this guy doesn't care about the club, look, he doesn't track back, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you try and play through pain. Maybe you try and fight through pain. Maybe you try and do whatever it is that you do. Go to your fitness club. Go on your run through an injury. And I think you'll probably find the state that you find his body in right now. Of course, you don't have professional surgeons and people who try and keep you at your best, but you also don't have a lot of minutes on your body and an average of, almost over 40 games a season playing a full 90, because Jurgen Klopp is a very intense manager, but also didn't have anyone else who has the extremely specific skill set that you have. I think that's fair enough. Trent is a very talented player, but it puts him in a difficult position, and it makes him a vulnerability in the side. Conor Bradley was a great rotation with him, but currently we do not have that. And when we are subbing players on, we are still trying to protect Trent. Obviously, there's Jarell in there. There's also Endo. I think there are a lot of times we want to change and shut down games, and that's fair enough. But I think also you want your most creative and your best leaders on the field as constantly as possible, and Trent certainly is that. The commentary at Sky doesn't reflect that, which makes me feel obviously that Neville doesn't have any inside source, as neither do I, but I think that anyone who just takes a cursory look at Trent right now will know there is a problem there. I know I've spent a while on him, but I really wanted to make it clear to people watching, this guy deserves your empathy, your sympathy, rather than your criticism. This is someone who's playing at a very high level through probably what is a lot of pain and a lot of medical intervention right now. That's at least my theory. When I look at him, if you disagree, tell me otherwise. If you think that that is not worthy of respect, please tell me otherwise. And if you think I've crossed a line in speaking about his physicality and maybe exposing elements to this, then please also tell me. It's something I've had as a theory for a while. I've mentioned it in a few other videos, but at the same time, it only really became evident to me a couple of weeks ago. I only really started speaking about it with friends and a couple of people behind the scenes more recently, and it seems to stand up to a lot of interrogation. So there you go. Trent, give him some empathy, give him some sympathy, give him some love. I think you could kind of see it in a couple of the times where you see him score, or you see him combine with other players. He's a guy who really cares about the club. Fair enough. Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai for me is such a key to this team. He's adaptable, plays multiple front foot positions when the team's on the front foot. He's great. He's great in the transition. When his little touches do come off, they're amazing. When they don't, they seem horrific, but that's because he takes a lot of risks. A lot of risk is given to him in the game to judge, and I think that's fair enough right now. He's a player that when it does come off, it pays off, and it really works with Salah out there. I love watching him in combination up at the top with Curtis and with Salah and everyone else, and that four frontline pushing with whoever's playing out on the left wing. Really, it's a 4-2-2-2-2, but really it's a 4-2-4, especially out of possession. It's a very aggressive 4-2-4, and he's a huge part of that. Jones also deserves a lot of credit within that as well. Jones is a fantastic presser in the side and someone who just keeps the opposition under pressure constantly. You can see their right back hated having him on him. You can see Szoboszlai putting pressure through the middle, and you can see probably why we're resistant to playing an absolute out-and-out striker. The criticism of Arsenal this weekend was, A, they didn't have the personnel, which I don't really think is a criticism because obviously they've got a lot of injuries at the moment, but also that some of their players didn't seem to want to have the ball, didn't seem to want to be involved in the play, didn't seem to want to get stuck in. It's not the case for people like Szoboszlai. It's not the case for people like Curtis Jones. No one can accuse Curtis Jones not wanting to get stuck in, right? And I think it's really key to the hunger, the drive, the engine of this team is the hunger and the drive of it. And it's not that Arsenal don't possess that. It's not that City don't possess that. It's just that those things don't seem to be at their very peak right now for either of those sides. And I think all three of these sides are going to go through real tests come the end of the season. City are going to go through their own tests, trying to get top four. Liverpool are going to go through their own tests against low blocks. Teams are really very good at isolating our two fullbacks and getting through and then putting a big man through the middle. Everton did it really well with Beto, Villa did it really well with Watkins, and with Rashford and a number of players. We're going to play more teams like that than we're going to play City this season, guys. City now have no say in this title race. There is no time when they'll play Arsenal, unless in the Champions League, doesn't really matter. Oh, sorry. There is no time, that was a genuine mistake. There's no time when they're going to play Liverpool again. Fine. I don't really think they have that much say in this. And the maximum amount of say they're really going to have in this title race is whether they demoralise teams they play or buoy teams they play before they play Liverpool or Arsenal. That's really the extent of it now. We've beaten City twice this season. We've done the double on them, which is what we do in a very rare occasions in recent years. And we're going to make most of it right now. But I'm going to chill that champagne and not pop it just yet, because there are still a third of the season left to go. I say that. Yeah, there's still just under a third of the season left to go, but it is the third of the season left to go. So a lot of points up for grabs. And as much as we're 11 points ahead, that's 11 points with Arsenal with a game in hand. That's 11 points with Arsenal still to come to Anfield. That's 11 points with a lot of low block teams to play, with a lot of technically brilliant sides, with the side that beat Arsenal in exactly the same orientation of home and away as Arsenal had this weekend. So there's a lot of big tests still to come. But confidence is about momentum. It's about chronology. It's about, hey, we did that this week, so what can we do this week? There will be ebbs and flows to this season, but with someone like Salah doing what he's doing, with Szoboszlai, Curtis, all these guys, I'm really genuinely I'm really happy with this side. And there seemed to be a real moment at the end of the game when Van Dijk held Alisson and they had that like long embrace. It wasn't like it was like, hey, that's a meaningful, the one turning point, but it was like, you can tell there's obviously an element of like, hey, we've got to get through beating these badges. And then, once we've got the points under our belt, let's celebrate that. Let's feel that. Same for us. Celebrate this tonight. Celebrate a great weekend. Celebrate something which will undermine elements of confidence for Arsenal, elements of confidence for other people who want to come for us. But no, when you play poor teams like City, when it becomes almost very evident what it is that your game plan is, and that we didn't really have to push that through all that much today. It didn't really seem all that difficult. I know there are going to be some people who got opposite versions of this. We really didn't have to play that hard against City today. They had a majority of the possession, but managers have worked out how to play that. We have what, 33% possession today? It was really a very low amount of possession. Stats-wise, 34% possession. Like, come at me. Our XG just shaded theirs ever so slightly. It shaded theirs at 0.71 to their 0.63. We created one more big chance than them. They didn't really create that many. They created double the amount of shots that we did. But again, a lot of those not very meaningful shots. We forced their goalkeeper into... did our goalkeeper save more? No, theirs saved more. There were pretty meaningless saves that Alisson really had to make. Corner kicks, relatively even. Fouls, again. They had less fouls than we did. There's a thing on the Tompkins Times that I really want to talk about. Referees are calling a lot against Liverpool at the moment, and it seems like through this analysis, what we're basically showing is there's a lot more fouls being given against Liverpool, which should be given for Liverpool, as in games should be a lot more evenly refereed if you even just look at the kind of fouls, place the fouls being given, the frequency of those fouls, all these kind of things. They're just not being given against Liverpool, but they are being for Liverpool, but they are being given against Liverpool, if that makes sense. And that's, we're going to have our ways that referees, we're going to have human intervention because that's the nature of the game, right? That's part of football. But it's frustrating to see. So to see Liverpool push through those kind of things, to see the relief on the players' faces on the other side of that and them going, we got through that again without a referee tripping us up, without us getting into too many difficult scrapes, that's good. That's what we want to do. Reduce that risk, maximize that output. From here on out, like I said in the Núñez video, like I said in the preview, it's about getting this team over the line. It's about pushing forward. It's about adaptability. It's about that team being able to morph into whatever it needs to in those moments. And the second I saw that formation against Villa, I thought, I know exactly what Arne Slot is trying to do. The second I saw this similar or the same thing against Man City, I went, right, we know exactly what this manager's trying to do. Opposition will also know that. But it's great to see there is a level of dominance through what he is doing right now, which means we don't rely on a Jota or a Núñez through the middle always. And we do have this repeatable, tested system which can result in goals. It's the movement of Szoboszlai, it's the movement of Curtis, it's the movement of Salah and Diaz. And Alexis McAllister and Gravenberch haven't really had that mention in this game. I think they're great at protecting that back line. They did some really good filling in at fullback today and kind of compressing that space. Not that they need to get him back in that fullback position, just they needed to compress that space. And again, that square of the two in front of them and the two centre-backs is really compressed. And it works really well for Liverpool, or at least it has. Once you get past that, you probably get to Liverpool's goal. But that's like a spine that we've got at the moment. And it is a really direct route of play, which I think other people are trying to cotton onto and sort of have cottoned onto, but haven't really worked out a solve for yet. And when someone does work out a solve, I think we're going to have to morph again. But again, that's why you put Gakpo, Núñez, Chiesa, Jota on the bench. I put the best of those players last. That is a lot of names in there. There are a lot of adaptable, different styles of attack that we can morph into. We did it against Brentford. We did it against Villa. We've done it multiple times. And I think, to an extent, I think Slot will know the players at this point in the season he can trust and can't trust. Or trust and have slightly less trust in. He clearly brought Núñez on in against Villa. So I think there is an element here of us knowing what it is that gets us to the title. Arsenal's maximum number of points now is 89. Ours is 90. Or higher than 90, but that means we need to get to 90 and we'll know that we've won the league. That is still, how many points off if I look at the league table? 26 points off. So we need 26 points from 11 games. So there'll be 33 points on offer. We need 26 points if Arsenal go perfect between now and the end of the season. Yeah, because Arsenal have got one more game. If Arsenal go perfect between now and the end of the season. 26 points wins it, guys. Maybe Arsenal will go perfect. Maybe there is an invincible element to this side. But I think a lot of teams, and this is the kind of the point of the Premier League, is it's not about just possession. It's not about just one play anymore. The side will be grateful they got through this, but this really wasn't the biggest test. I don't even need to take you through these matches. We know where Liverpool go after this. We know that Liverpool have got Newcastle next, and then it's a week, like 9 days to 8 days to PSG, Southampton, then PSG again. Not being in the FA Cup is kind of a blessing at this point in the season. Thank you, Plymouth. Thank you, Plymouth. You gave us somewhat of a slide that we could arrest and then move away from, at least try to move away from, and this seems to be the other side of that slide, frankly. You hope. Let's see how we play Newcastle midweek. Preview coming in the next couple of days. Let me know what you guys think on the channel. There is a Patreon. There is also a Discord down there that I'd love for you guys to get into. Appreciate you sticking around here and being an ever-present community with me. Celebrate tonight, because beating City is big, but really we're just beating a badge. We're really beating half of the side, in my humble opinion. But there are a lot of great things in there. Appreciate you guys. I'll chat to you in a little while. Much love. See you tomorrow. Bye.